Welcome to my channel. In a quiet American suburb where manicured lawns met tree-lined streets and the biggest concern was whether Mrs. Henderson next door would win the annual bake-off, there was a house that never sold. It sat empty, a constant reminder of the strange occurrence that had taken place there years ago. The locals called it the forgotten house on Ashwood Lane. It all started one ordinary evening in the early 90s. Dinner plates were left on the kitchen table, some cold, some warm, as if the family who lived there had just stepped out for a moment and never returned. The father, a successful lawyer, was never late for dinner. The mother, a beloved kindergarten teacher, wouldn't abandon her nightly ritual of reading bedtime stories. And their two children, Emily and Ethan, would never miss an episode of their favorite TV show, which was still playing on the screen when the police arrived. But they were nowhere to be found. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, but there was no sign of the missing family. Theories abounded. Had they run away? Had they met with an accident? Or was something more sinister at play? The house remained locked, its windows like vacant eyes staring out blindly. For sale signs went up and came down. Real estate agents would show the house to potential buyers, but none ever made an offer. There were too many questions, too much sadness clinging to the place. It was as if the house itself was mourning its lost inhabitants. Then one day, a young couple, James and Sarah, stumbled upon the house. They were looking for a fixer-upper, a place they could call their own, somewhere in the quiet suburbs where they could raise a family. They didn't care about the house's history. All they saw was a chance to own a piece of property for a song. As they walked through the house, the real estate agent rattling off its features, James and Sarah felt a strange pull, as if the house was reaching out to them, desperate for them to stay. The house had a musty smell, as if it had been holding its breath for a long time. The rooms were dusty, the wallpaper peeling, but it had potential, a diamond in the rough that just needed some love and care. They could see past the cracks in the plaster and the overgrown weeds in the backyard. They saw a place where they could create new memories, where they could laugh and love and live. At night, however, the house changed. The mirrors in the hallway and bedrooms no longer reflected their own image back at them. Instead, they showed to people who were smiling, whispering, their mouths moving soundlessly, and pointing at the basement door. James and Sarah were deeply disturbed by this, but they couldn't understand why. After all, it was just an old house. Then one night, while standing in front of the basement mirror, James and Sarah noticed that the reflection of their hands were moving on their own. Their fingers curled, moved apart, and then came together as if in prayer. Then the reflection started to move forward, inching closer and closer until the space between the glass and the figures became so small that their faces were touching. Terrified, James and Sarah ran from the house, not stopping until they reached their car and turned the key in the ignition. Back in the safety of their own home, they tried to put the events of the night before out of their minds. But every time they looked at each other, they saw the reflection of the other in their own eyes, as if they were looking into a funhouse mirror at an amusement park. The realization hit them like a ton of bricks. They weren't seeing the reflection of themselves, they were seeing the reflection of what was below. With trembling hands, they returned to the house, armed with a crowbar this time. As they stood in front of the basement door, listening intently, they could hear scratching sounds coming from the other side. Whatever was down there was trying to get out. With a deep breath, James placed the crowbar against the door and started to pry. It took a lot of effort, but slowly, very slowly, the door started to give way. As the first rays of sunlight hit the basement stairs, James and Sarah descended cautiously. What they found below was so disturbing that it would haunt their nightmares forever. But that, my friends, is a story for another day. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.